So we're back in Hull. We cut the journey short coming back. We wanted to take a bit longer really to come home, but there was a number of issues. One, the weather. The weather was turning. We could see that there was this change in the jet stream being forecast, and that would pull northerly winds down. And on the east coast of England, you do not want northerly winds out there, especially strong northerlies. And so we didn't want to get stuck in a harbour somewhere or in a marina. And the second reason was COVID-19. Unfortunately, restrictions are coming back in, local lockdowns are starting. We were being sort of chased a little bit by the lockdowns. Around Newcastle and the Tynemouth, that was going into local lockdown. In fact, it was in local lockdown, but things were looking to get worse when we left. We moved to Hartlepool. Now Hartlepool was not under any restrictions, any local restrictions, so we could have stayed there, but it would have happened. But Yorkshire and Humberside were showing signs, and we wanted to make sure we got back into our home port before anything more serious happened. Today Leeds has gone into local lockdown, so people outside of households can't meet each other and things like that. It was just showing to be becoming a mess, and so we really wanted to get home to make sure that we were not stuck in some place or presented with any other issues. So it's now back to work on the boat, that is. We've got jobs to do. One of the jobs will be, we need lifting. We did have a problem, and it was a problem that manifested itself fairly early on in the trip. It's right at the beginning. We couldn't get Ava up on the plane. Now, it wasn't a big problem, realistically, because we don't run on the plane that often. But she was just feeling a bit draggy. Now, a couple of months or so ago, probably 3 months, we had her lifted because we needed to change a seacock. At the time of lifting, we had her pressure washed and cleaned off, and she was looking okay. The anti-fouling was looking a bit worn, and we were using a soft ablative type anti-fouling. So we knew this winter she would be ready for a bottom job. Needed a bit of a nip and a tuck. No, she needed a repaint and a facelift underneath. Now we might have caused ourselves more problems by having her pressure washed, because when we took her out after being lifted, she ran beautifully up on the plane, no problem. But then we were stuck for a couple of months or so in the marina because of childcare issues, etc., due to COVID-19, and Janet was running up and down the motorway down to Bedfordshire to look after the grandkids, which meant we couldn't get out. We didn't get any running done, and we seem to have developed this year in this marina an infestation of a sort of a worm that creates a calcified outer tube that is sticking to the bottom of boats and fouling the bottom of boats. And I think we've got that because we were down to half speed. At full RPM, we were at half speed. She just would not come up. She wanted to, you could feel her trying, but no, she just wouldn't. So we had to run a lot slower, which meant that it took longer to get anywhere. It wasn't a problem because that was part of the plan. We were just going to take our time. but it was more of an issue as we were coming in, and the further south we got and more harder running we wanted to do, we couldn't do it. So she needs a lift from that. We were having a bit of we've got this other issue with the starboard fuel tank, so we don't need to be out of the water to do that job. We just have to order a new tank and then start work ripping the old one out. So we'll probably wait till we're back in and do that a bit later on in the year. And an issue showed itself, a strange issue with the port engine. You don't want problems with starboard and port engines, but that wasn't a major one. Early on in a run, she would go up to 3,500 RPM, which is maximum. It's about 3,250, I think, is the recommended maximum speed, but we were able to achieve 3.5. But once we've been running for a few hours, that engine would try to go up and then it would start to bring it back down. So that's more of a wastegate issue, or it could be again due to the amount of pull, and we might have fouling on the props. This worm is attaching to fiberglass, to metal, to anything, and so it could well be that we've got some problems there. So I've checked the turbo. The turbos are fine. They're spooling up. They're spinning free. There's no. My first thoughts was, oh bloody hell, the turbos starting to fail. But no, the turbos are absolutely fine. The wastegates are fine. They're working as they should. They're looking. The movements are free. Everything is in tip-top condition. So I think it's something a little bit simpler. And it could well be that we've got worm on the props as well. So when we pull the props, we'll clean them, and then we'll give them a coating with a spray-on anti-foul for props, just to try to prevent this worm getting hold again. And then we've got another smaller, more strange problem, and that is Peppy managed to get up under the dashboard on the flybridge. We had it all closed off, but he managed to pull some of the covers down and got up underneath and did a poop. In a place I can't get. So I'm having to take out all the cupboards and the backboarding under the dashboard to get to the poop, which it's been a few days now, and the smell's not as bad as it was, but you can imagine. No smelly vision, I'm afraid. So I've taken both port and starboard cupboards out. I'm also going to use this opportunity to tidy up some of the wiring and cabling and take out some of the redundant systems as well. The kickboard, it's a right nightmare. Screws are knackered. Somebody's tried to do it at some point in the past, or when they put it in they didn't do it right and just chewed the screws up. Bits are corroded, so I can't undo things. And thank you, Carver, there is a support bar that comes up underneath here, and then they've put the steering wheel and hydraulics in, and the cover over the top of the screws, so you can't get to the other end of the screws, and the bolts. They've not used screws, they've used bolts, and so you can't get to both sides. It's impossible, and I'm struggling to find a way without ripping everything off to solve this problem. We'll find a way. That's if this little one will let me. This is not Peppy, this is Kit. She's the good one. She poops where she should poop. Peppy pooped where he shouldn't poop. He's the big one. So, quick update. I've got one of the upright supports out. Cannot shift the other. the screws, they're a very, very tough grade of stainless steel, and I've managed to get 2 out, but that's it. The grub screws are all corroded. They're 1/8 of an inch AF, and as soon as I try and put an Allen key in, they're just spinning. So I don't want to destroy anything. So what I've had to do, I'm working with that kickboard in place, which is making life a bit tough. But the good thing is I got the poop out, so we can now give that a good wash and disinfect under there. I'm having to work around the bloody cat because he's in there. We're now almost ready to start putting things back together, but these cupboards that are at the side are a mess. They're plywood that's got a melamine face or something on it, but they should be white and they're not, and they won't clean up. So what I'm going to do is recover them, and we've got a white wood in this DC Fix. It's just white with a slight wood grain to it. The camera won't pick it up, but that will just refinish them and make it look brand new. And that's that side put back together. It makes a big difference. Well, we're a little bit high at the minute, and I don't mean from any substances. We're up on the hard. We've been lifted out. I didn't get a chance to set the cameras up. It was they had a slot. Quick, let's get in and let's get lifted. So we're now up in the boatyard, hopefully only for a week or so, whilst we deal with some issues underneath. And so underneath, this is the reason we're coming out, is all this growth. The anti-foul has just about had it, but we've got an infestation of this worm, and it's like a calcium. It's crusty. It's like a beard underneath, and it's just knocked all the speed off. We lost half our speed. It's incredible. That's why we felt like we were being dragged. It's right from the bow all the way back. Now, we were due anti-fouling this autumn, but yeah, that's grown in 3 months. So we've done about an hour and a half's work since coming up onto the hard of scraping, and we've got back to the first stanchions on both sides, and we've scraped all the way down each side and across the back, so not bad. The big task is underneath. That's a bigger area, much bigger area than we've already done, but a couple of hours more work tomorrow. We should have most of the backbone of that broken, as long as the weather holds out for us, and then we can start on the other jobs as well, because we need to let this dry a bit more. So all in all, not bad. One of the areas I want to work on though is around this tube seal. I can see the split line, and I don't really think I should, so I think what I'm going to do is cut into that a little bit and then just use some epoxy, second epoxy, to rebuild it back up and blend it in. I can see it on both sides. It's just one of those areas where you think, could we be getting a bit of seepage? Don't think so, but it's worth doing whilst we're out. Well, the other job we have to do is we have to take this prop off, and we've got to change the cutlass bearing, so we may well be pulling the shaft as well. And so this is our work for the day. They are good though, those carbide scrapers. My task is to remove that prop, which has been off before, and then see whether what we can do relative to getting the cutlass bearing out without taking the shaft out, or removing the shaft. And first, there's a split pin there, cotter pin. Take off, then that's a lock nut. We need to undo all of those. And there we are, one prop off. Didn't take that long. Just use car spring compressors and a crowbar and a hammer. And there she is, there's the prop. So now I've got to clean the bottom of this P bracket up, because somewhere in here there are some grub screws to take out, and then try and clean up the prop shaft a bit. And see if we can tease this bearing out without removing the prop shaft. So we tried removing the cutlass bearing with a homemade cutlass bearing remover. No, it's rock solid, is that. So we cleaned all the prop shaft up roughly. I'm going on board now to disconnect it from the gearbox, and we'll pull it. So that's the coupling that we have to remove. First of all, mark the top, and that's in line with the keyway. So that's phase one. Don't like the look of some of them spring washers. They don't look to be tight. That's before we start. What I can't see is how that comes off. I would have thought that should have been a split coupling, but it isn't. So let's unbolt it and see what happens. Well, it's amazing what you find. The coupling's got a special nut on it, which is, I haven't got any tools anywhere near to take that off. But the port side drive coupling was loose. So this boat has continued with its history of having things that should be loose being tight, and things that should be tight being bloody loose. They were finger tight, the nuts. That's the source of the noise we had. Now they're tight. And I've just found my mid bilge pump has decided to pack in, so now need a new bilge pump. So it's now Sunday morning. We came out Thursday afternoon and started work almost immediately. We had an hour before the end of day on Thursday. We've scraped the entire bottom. We lost yesterday. Yesterday was horrible here. As you can probably see from the puddles, we had torrential downpours all day yesterday, so we got very, very little done on the boat. But we've cracked on. It turns out I didn't need to change that cutlass bearing. I've had it inspected. It's fine. So the prop's back on. Everything's back together. That's all ready now for painting with anti-foul. Having to do it because we're getting this bloody worm in, and it's horrible. It gets on the props even, so I would not normally paint the props, but we've got some specific material. What I've got to do today is give underneath a light sand. We've got just about absolutely everything off. There's some patches you can't get at because of the blocks, etc. They'll have to wait till we're lifted. But but yeah, we're cracking on. What we've been using to scrape off are these drawback carbide scrapers, and they do a fantastic job. We've used these twice now with 2 of them, and they're still the same. I have just turned the blades around because one of the blades was starting to chip. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe to see more motor cruising on Ava Grace. Next week we repaint the bottom and get back in the water.